and welcome everyone. I'm Ari Lax, and this week we got a nice one from the top 32 of the Grand Prix. Uh, Andrew Walbers finished around 20th place at Grand Prix Dallas Fort Worth with Green Red Madcap Ponza. So Green Red Ponza has been around for a little bit. It's a semi-recent archetype to pop up. I know Eric Froelich played it at a modern Grand Prix in the last year, and it was around a little before that. But one of the new things to come out of Kaladesh is Madcap Experiment plus Platinum Empyrean. So the idea is that you have no other artifacts in your deck. You jam Madcap, you always hit Empyrean, and then when it goes to deal damage to you, guess what? You don't take any damage. Because the Empyrean prevents your life control from changing. So this gives this deck kind of a new angle, a new threat to just kind of a way to free roll wins. So, kind of go through what the deck's doing. It's the same as every other land destruction deck in the history of Magic, basically. You have green mana ramp, so you can cast a turn 2 Stone Rain, and you do have literal Stone Rain. The reason for that, over like Molten Rain or anything like that, is Arbor Elf. So why are we Arbor Elfing? Well, really the best ramp spell in Modern for a turn 1 ramp, in this deck at least, is Utopia Sprawl. You're not trying to get a bunch of colors just on your solid 2 color. You want the least disruptible one. There we go. Arbor Elf plus Utopia Sprawl. So if you play Arbor Elf on turn 1, play a second land, tap your first forest, put the Utopia Sprawl on your second forest. That gives you 4 mana on turn 2, which really opens up some interesting stuff. However, it comes at the cost of Arbor Elf being Arbor Elf. So if you have to go Forest, Basic Mountain, you can't make the double red for Molten Rain. So you're less red heavy. That's why you have literal, actual 9th edition Stone Rains in your deck. This 4 mana lets you play Monvuli Acid Moss, and the ramp on this card is actually relevant as you're building up towards Inferno Titan or potentially actually hard-casting Platinum Empyrean. So that extra mana is pretty useful. You can also pump the extra mana into Bonfire of the Damned, a decent way to clear out larger numbers of smaller creatures. Also just a decent finisher to have in your deck going late, given how much mana this deck tends to have sitting around. Even though you only have 21 total lands between, these fetches, you do need ways to use your mana because you don't have a lot of ways to churn cards. So again, this is another reason Inferno Titan's a great threat, is because you have mana, it's going to two-shot them most likely. Inferno Titan is just also generally a good card. So, and it's worth noting that Bonfire and Inferno Titan tend to handle some of the strategies that might be able to come out underneath your Stone Rains. The other thing you're trying to jam on turn 2 is Blood Moon. And basically everyone's trying to do this in Modern. There's a million different decks that are trying to turn 2 Blood Moon, but this is just another one of them. You have no Simian Spirit Guides because you have all of these other ramp spells focused on hitting your Stone Rains. You don't need to have the one-shot ramp spell. You actually have real dedicated ones. You have some Scavenging Ooze to mop up various graveyard decks, Shrink Opposing Tarmogoyfs, all that good stuff. And just a beefy Thragtusk to round out your threat base. Not a lot of special details to the deck. Just a Beast Within is a 3 mana spell that can kill a big creature. It is worth noting that this deck not very good against larger creatures, or not very good, but just doesn't have a lot of ways to kill them. You can make an 8/8, but there's only so much an 8/8 can do. So you can actually kill them with Beast Within. Moving to the sideboard, you're going to see a lot of spot removal. This is for the decks that come out underneath your Stone Rain, so you can actually change into a deck that kills their creatures, including a Dismember for the larger stuff as well. Dismember, notably one of the decks that's coming out underneath your Stone Rains that you want all these cards against, also Sudden Shock, is Infect. So Dismember is a very good card there. And unlike Sudden Shock, it may actually kill a Death Shadow creature. You got some Ancient Grudges for Affinity and other various artifacts, including Mana Rocks out of various decks to augment your land destruction capabilities. You have more threats, including Thruns that are going to come out underneath Counter Magic, because if you look at the threats in the main deck, they all suck against Mana Leak, and Thrun does that. Thragtusk. It's worth noting the Platinum Empyrean combo is great against Burn, but Thragtusk does give you a little more game against other aggressive decks as well. And same with these Kitchen Finks. Finks also let you play another good attrition threat like Thrun, and then you got a Boil to KO the counterspell decks that might be able to keep pace with your expensive threats. this deck, Land Destruction is never a really subtle deck. Um, the last subtle land destruction deck I think I ever saw played the card Annex, and even then that was not necessarily a land destruction deck. Um, it's really straightforward. You're killing your opponent's lands. You've got a lot of free roll, easy win buttons, which is one of the big draws to this deck. You have Blood Moon for some decks, Madcap Experiment for others. And overall, your options are prevent your opponent from casting spells or do a powerful thing, which, incidentally, that is what the Restore Balance deck I played was trying to do. So this is another variant of that sub-archetype, or sub-macro archetype in Modern, which I will expect, other similar decks to be popping up in this vein moving forward. But I kind of want to see how good the literal Stone Rain version of this deck happens to be.